We are live. We are live. Welcome to PATC postgame. The Boston Eagles have crushed the Florida State Seminoles this evening. We're going to get to your phone calls as soon as possible. I happen to believe this is a complete failure on all levels. Not just getting the wrong quarterback in the transfer portal. But I know they were losing 14-0. I know it was 14-6 at halftime. When Florida State started with the ball and it was 4th and 5 and they went for it, I was screaming at the TV. When DJ was going back to pass, I was saying, are you kidding me? Kick the ball. Get Boston College deep in their own territory. The third quarter has just started, and you're putting the ball in the DJ's hand to get that 4th and 5. DJ, who couldn't hit the ocean, standing next to it at the beach with a football in his hand, and you're asking him to make that fourth down and 5 completion. And then, of course, they did not make it. And, of course, Boston College went down to score 21-6. And Norvell panicked. I get it. Florida State was getting outplayed, but he completely panicked. That was a panic move. And then the other big part of that game, it was Florida State went to some trickeration. They finally started throwing the ball to Portia, the number one. he finally was getting some targets. He's a big play guy. He's a great athlete. Not a skilled receiver. But anyways, they scored to make it 21-13, and then Boston College just ran the ball right down the Seminoles' throat, 28-13. That was another just major part of the game. We're going to get to your phone calls. Boston College has the ball at the 5-yard line. Second to go. I think they're just going to nail it, right? I don't think they're going to try to score. I don't know. Look, Thomas Castellanos, we talked about him in the offseason. Bill O'Brien was coming on in. We didn't know how Thomas Castellanos would take to all this, but man, he did not throw an interception. 10 of 16, 106 yards, 73 yards on the ground. Treshaun Ward, 77 yards on the ground. They did 3 wheel routes to him. They passed the ball 3 times. He dropped the first one. He was able to grab the second one. The third one was a touchdown. Florida State could not recognize. The linebackers would not take on the running back coming out of the backfield. The linebackers had their eyes on Thomas Castellanos, and Treshaun Ward got some room in real routes. Again, Florida State. DJ Ungale, 21 of 42. A lot of bad passes. Let's be honest. A lot of drop passes. Let's be honest. We said the weakness of Florida State coming into the season was going to be their wide receiver room. It wasn't just us. If you listen to War Chant, if you listen to Chris Nee at Florida State 247, if you read his articles, they really didn't know what they were getting in this wide receiver room. They thought Douglas would emerge. Jalen Lucas, he's just beginning his career. I think he's going to be a good one. Malik Benson, transfer, okay. Portier had a great spring camp, but not a real polished receiver. And he's at the end of his career, but he can be a big play guy like you saw. We believed that Florida State was going to look at Florida State's running game. Do they have it even listed? Yeah. 16 carries, 21 yards. 16 carries, 21 yards. Florida State against Boston College. Boston College. You know what? They're not going to give the ball to my guy, Tolafili. Okay. It looks like they're enamored with the young guy, Cam Davis. Okay, give him the rock. Give him the rock. Let the big guy go. He looks like he's a highly skilled kid, but my goodness. 16 times. 21 yards. The offensive line, nah. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. Let's get to your phone calls. I appreciate it. John Teal, when ankles meet earlobes, a Florida State love story. Thank you so much for your super chat, John Teal. Appreciate it. We're going to open up the phone lines. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. I know that Florida State was missing one of their top linemen.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. What do you think, man?
Well, FSU's run defense, Greg, that has more holes than Wisconsin Swiss cheese.
Yeah, that's the most surprising thing because that defensive line was supposed to be legit. It's not legit. Or they're not in shape, or they have injuries that we don't know, but whatever. They're not productive at all.
I don't know. I mean, Georgia Tech ran all over them. I mean, no, that's not taking anything away from Georgia Tech. I mean,
no, yeah.
I mean, Georgia Tech, the running back, why am I forgetting his name? But he had a sensational game last week against FSU, and tonight, I mean, Boston College, their offensive line just imposed its will, Greg. I mean, it was just sort of this was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe the Seminole fans, they can either comment in the box in the chat, or they can call in. I'd be surprised if DJU is the starter next week. He just didn't look very good tonight.
Well,
I mean, I don't know if the backups,
well, it's
better,
Brock,
but...
and the fans were chanting for Brock, and he must not be. I don't know. He must not be showing it in practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating situation, one which I'm well familiar with.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah.
You as a Gopher fan also understand.
Yeah.
But, this is kind of surprising to me. I'm not sure. It's still, the season's young, but, FSU, that's one Greg the Cooler playoff prediction right there, Greg.
Yep.
They're going to need to turn some things around. Having 2 conference losses, that's going to be difficult for them to get to the ACC championship game, and they still got to play. They still got to play Notre Dame and Clemson.
Yeah.
And I mean that Notre Dame team on Saturday night, Greg. That defense, Marcus Freeman, that defense and that secondary, that looked nasty, Greg. I mean, they're going to make some waves. I mean, Notre Dame's defense, and I mean, I'm just impressed because they just went in there into College Station, just they enforced it. That was a big win, and that's a very that's something that I'm surprised. I was not surprised, but I'm not surprised because Marcus Freeman's a really good coach. That doesn't surprise me at all. But Texas A&M will do what Texas A&M does, and that is historically and continually underperform and disappoint.
All right, man. We got phone calls lining up.
All right. That's enough out of me. You have a good night, Greg.
Appreciate it, sir. Call again, man. Amelia, my son isn't due until January. Thank God. Congratulations. You are the real winner of tonight. He doesn't have to witness this clown show, just has to hear his mama bitching. Yikes on bikes. Holy smokes. Great comment. Thank you, Amelia. I appreciate you coming on in. Jeff, crab cakes and football. This is why I'm against preseason polls.
Call from
JD.
JD, can you hold on for a moment? Thank you so much for calling. Can you hold on for a moment? I just got to get caught up. This is why I'm against preseason poll. Thank you so much for your generosity, your super chat. Jeff, John Teal, Lane Kiffin face is in the bat signal over Florida. Maybe for the Gators, but not for the Seminoles. There's no way Norvell's going to be in trouble this year. Absolutely no shot. None. John Teal, who blinks first, Florida State or Florida? Okay, we got to get away from this extreme overreaction. I understand overreaction, but come on, 13-0. I mean, the season before that, bringing Florida State program up. This is college football. These are 18 to 23-year-old young men. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going through in classes, with their girlfriends, with whatever. You can't be. I mean, can you imagine if Florida State got rid of Mike Norvell? No coach would want to go there. No, no. I appreciate the super chats, John Teal, but I have witnessed an incredible overreaction after week one in my community. That is for sure. JD, the floor is yours. Let it rip. Thank you for calling, Mr. Seminole.
Well, no excuses here. We're lost. We are. Remember how I kept over our last few phone calls? I've been nervous because we don't have leaders. It's not a player. That's what I keep hearing. It's not a player-led team. Mm-hmm. People that are going to practice, watching practice, just noticing things. It's just not a player-led team. We were last year. We're not this year. Mm-hmm. And you're seeing the reactions. Basically, people aren't trying to throw on us very much. We're really good coverage-wise. Yeah, we're going to have a bust here or there when you have safeties trying to cheat up to help cover the run game.
Yeah, exactly.
The defensive line was expected to be so much better than what it is. They have not performed well. We're not good at linebacker. We're very, very young at linebacker.
And you got injuries at linebacker.
Yeah, but Omar Graham wasn't going to play anyway.
Okay.
But we found out last week you had Lundy and Omar Graham apparently had hardly practiced for 2 weeks, and then they started the game. Now I do expect our linebacker coach will probably get fired, Randy Shannon. He has not recruited well, and yeah, you had a couple of good linebackers last year, but he really hasn't developed. Now one of the guys playing tonight, Blake Nicholson.
Yeah.
Played well at times, at other times got lost.
Yeah, they I mean, when you get burned 3 times on the wheel route like that, that means they don't have everything figured out, So
Blake's young. Yeah. Cam Riley is new. He played at Auburn last year. You just what you had expected was to get better play from the defensive line, and it would have taken the pressure off the linebackers. What was completely the opposite. If you go back and watch last week's game film, it wasn't so much that the defensive line was getting blown off the ball. It's that Georgia Tech was running those really long stretch plays. And what had happened was linebackers were getting caught in the wash.
Yeah.
There were just things they weren't used to seeing, and there were big gaps. A lot of things going on tonight. Now, tonight, there were times when the defensive line played well. Sometimes they didn't. I'm noticing the guys that aren't your traditional starters were playing better than the starters, and I noticed that last week too. So there's no playoff. No. We're not making the playoff. Yeah. We're not even going to be in the conference. That's over.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I'm not trying to overreact either, but
No, that's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time to go ahead and play Cam Davis.
Well, you've got guys that came over for 1 year, and you got to give them the opportunities to have a good season and whatever else. So we got a bye week next week. We've just got to start figuring some things out. Now, I'm going to get to DJ. All right? I've tried to be as fair as I can be.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Brock would be much better at the moment. Next year, see, FSU's in a unique position. Next year, you might have 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the country between Brock Glenn and Luke Krummenhoek. They're just not necessarily ready now.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they'll be All-Americans next year. I'm saying whichever one wins, don't be surprised if they have a really, really good year. And I think FSU quarterback will be fine moving forward. But, I mean, what did DJ do well? He holds the ball too long. A lot of times he's getting pressure. He's taking a 5-step drop and holding the ball for 3 seconds. Okay? You got to get rid of the ball within 6 seconds. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
There were times when he could check down. He would check down and he'd pat. He'd pat the ball one or two times too much. And then, of course, a lot of errant throws. And then Morlock, the tight end who's got NFL he's got an NFL type future. He's caught everything in preseason.
Yeah.
And now he's got a case of the drops.
Yeah. And he's lost confidence. Morlock, the tight end. The most concerning part to me about DJ is, he's never had a quick trigger. So that's not going to change. He's always been a little slow. But like what you mentioned, he had a lot of drops, but he had so many errant passes. No, you cannot have that. I mean, I don't think Florida State has, they probably have a middle of the road wide receiver room. I keep picking on it a little bit, but I've heard Jeff Cameron talk about it and others and Chris Nee, and they don't have a high level. They just don't have it this year. But there's guys open. And there was a 3rd and 5, and some guy was crossing over the middle, and he threw the ball at the guy's like 2 feet in front of his feet. I mean, it came out of his hand. He threw way too many errant passes. He's not giving his offense a chance. And I think they're losing faith in him. When you got a quarterback that is throwing that many errant passes, who's not delivering it on time, you start running your routes a little bit it's tough, man. It's tough when you have a guy that inaccurate.
Losing is contagious.
Yeah.
And the problem is that people are your coaches can only be leaders to a point. I mean, they're your leaders, but you got to have leaders on the field, and we don't have any. Some of the younger players have those leadership type personalities. Cam Davis, he's a leader type personality. Luke and Brock, they have leadership type personalities. Even some of the young, we got some pretty good young wide receivers. I mean, they could be. They're not Jeremiah Smith, but they could be really, really good. Yeah. And we got a couple of young tight ends that actually should be really, really good. One he's going to play in the league. He's either going to play in the league at either tight end or defensive end, one or the other. So you've got things to be excited about, but am I bashing Norvell? No. Fuller right now, Fuller and Norvell are. I'm not going to lie, they're trying to pull every lever. I mean, you got to think of the way their offense is run. There's a lot of play action. There's just a lot of run pass options, and the decision making, the hesitancy by DJ, it just throws everything off. And they're throwing, and then Boston College and Georgia Tech did it too, but it's especially Boston College. Go back and look at some of those plays when they're trying to run little draw or whatever else. There's 9 guys in the box.
Yeah.
They cheated the safeties up into the box, and they're still trying to run to keep it honest. And then like I said, then they go to pass, and then we have the issues on the pass. So, I mean, when you can't even get anything going, it's hard to find something that you're going to have success. Now, and I'll let you go here. I mean, I'll get off here in a minute. I know I'm taking up a lot of time. If he would have just completed half of the passes, half of the errant throws, and half of the drops, we might have won the game. And but we're not even in that part of the conversation at the moment. Right now, it's so off, it's so bad. I don't even know what to say. I mean, of course, I'm rambling here, so I must have plenty to say.
Yeah.
But
well, we'll talk about it.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I said I've seen Hall of Fame coaches have a team. I've seen at the high school level and NFL level teams that look like they can't get out of their own way. All of a sudden, it just clicks, and I've seen it happen in a week, but in both levels. A week, and they completely turned it around. I don't know that I've seen it at the college level.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but so right now my whole goal is just over the next few weeks, if we lose another game, so be it. Just figure out who the hell we are.
Yeah.
And who you can depend upon. And if we're going to continue to get this from DJ, well, I appreciate you coming, but it's time to move on to the
other. I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you for the time to let me ramble here.
Okay. You're a good man, JD. Tough loss. Appreciate you calling in, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
It was very nice of JD to call. I know it's tough. Tough loss. And it's the second one of the year. John Till, leave the Norvell and take the cannoli.
Call from
Nitwit.
Nitwit, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Yes, correct.
I do appreciate it. John Teal from 13-0 to 0-3 mutiny. Get a rope. John, I appreciate the super chats, but you got we're not. I should keep track of how many coaches in the PATC community, how many coaches the community calls for them to get fired. I think it would be 90% of all coaches by the end of the year. They're just going to have a tough year. Those things happen. And of course, and I know what Nitwit's going to say, and I'm going to go ahead and steal some of his thunder. Man, you guys got to give credit. Give credit to Boston College. Give credit to Georgia Tech. Those are young guys coming in. This one, they were going on the road. New coach, new coaching staff. Thomas Cassiano did not give up the ball. He didn't even come close to throwing an interception. He did not fumble it. He was the little general out there. Not to steal my wife's nickname, but he was. And they had a couple running backs who went, and they have that. I'll get to you in a second, Nitwit. They've got Turbo Richard, that freshman. Yeah, Robichaud and Ward are going to be running back 1 and 2, and of course Cassiano will probably lead the team in rushing yards by the end of the season. But they got that true freshman, Turbo Richard. He is going to be very good. Number 27, the little guy. Anyways, Nitwit, thanks for your patience. Go ahead, let her rip. What do you think?
Hey, Greg, what an exciting weekend of college football, man. It just doesn't get any better than this, you know. To end the weekend like this, I think you got to give Boston College, like you said, a lot of credit going down to Tallahassee. Coach O'Brien, a former Penn State coach, we probably owe our entire program to him. Great coach. And his players balled out for him tonight. And I think you're starting to see, like, it's great to see tough offensive line play, run the ball control offense, you know, get 4 or 5 yards, make sure you're, you know, taking on. It seems like something's coming back, like there that strong defense, you know, strong offensive line. I think here again you have, if you're a mid-tier program. I think you line up your NIL money and say, okay, I'm going to go out and get the best offensive lineman that I can. We are going to run the ball. You can always pick up players. There's always wide receivers that are going to be good. But it just seems like both Georgia Tech and Boston College had just lined up and said, okay, we're running the ball. And I think credit to all of them. And I feel bad for FSU fans. Got to say, what a weekend for the Big Ten. USC, big win over LSU.
Yeah.
Just showing out what the new Big Ten's going to be. And I can't wait. You know, my Nittany Lions went down, Drew Aller balling out.
Yeah.
Stiff arming people and throwing them to the ground. The young man
impressive.
went off.
That was impressive.
A couple of his throws, you could just tell he's got NFL talent. He seems to be taking a little more on himself, getting on guys and directing guys and showing some leadership. And I think, Nick Singleton just going off, big runs, big plays. Wallace, it just couldn't have been a better weekend for Penn State. And we're looking forward to it. We got our next 4 games at home, and then we go to USC, and we'll see what happens. But, we're rolling, Greg, and that's all that matters.
You're rolling.
Man. Take care.
You're rolling.
Thanks a lot for the show tonight, man.
You got it. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Again, if you're new to the show, please subscribe and smash that like button. If you want to support this channel, this College Football Rebel Outpost channel, with a donation, hit the $, make a comment, and I will get to Super Chat as quick as I possibly can. I'm going to post this comment, and I'm not picking on Tyler Nelson. Thank you for coming on in, Tyler Nelson. But I want to make something else clear. This is going to be a 2-parter. Tyler Nelson, Florida State still thinks they deserve to be in the Power 2 conferences. We've had a lot of overreaction on coaches, and we've had a lot of overreaction on how does this stuff affect realignment and conference affiliation. And Florida State going 3-9, 4-8 is not going to affect their value at all. Now, as you know, we have Peek Around the Corner have said that they're not the number 1 targets for the Big Ten or the SEC, and that was coming off a brilliant year. Florida State has great value. They're just not the top targets right now. And we'll see what happens. It's more of a matter of how than when the ACC implodes. But again, these losses don't. And I said to Florida State fans last year, your incredible year, and they had an incredible year, didn't really affect their. They are a high value commodity because of their huge fan base and the money they pour into it, and the intensity and the brand and the emerging university. It's nuance. It isn't just black and white. Florida State is a huge, huge, valuable brand, period. And them going 4-8, 6-6, 8-4, 5-7, 2-10, it doesn't change anything. Miami still has a national brand. Sure, it has diminished over 20 years, but there is still value there, and within the university and the market and the diversity of the market that would give like a Big Ten, and it isn't. And here's the other part of this. Here is the other part that I want to make it very clear. Yes, there is a power two. Yes, Big Ten and the SEC. Yes, the chances of the national champion coming from the Big Ten and the SEC is pretty high. Yes. But this is another example. Boy, I'm getting on my soapbox. This is another example of how stupid it would be. How incredibly idiotic it would be for the Big Ten to grow to 24 and the SEC to grow to 24 and those two conferences split away from the rest of college football. I know it could happen. I get it. And if it does happen, Peek Around the Corner is going to be covering the story, giving you the peek. We told you it wasn't going to happen in 2026, where others said it was going to happen. But I'm going to also tell you it's idiotic. It's dumb. I'm sorry, it's stupid. There is too many good college football players in this country. There's too many guys who develop, who work their butts off in G5. There's too many guys playing for Boston College, playing for Syracuse. Go right down the list. Take the bottom half of the ACC, bottom half of the Big 12, bottom half of the Big 10, bottom half of the S. Those teams, you get victories like this all the time. All the time. I don't care how much money Ohio State Buckeyes make. I don't care how much money the Florida Gators make, Alabama makes. I don't care. I mean, go ahead, go for it. It's great. That's what, it's going to help you. It's why USC went to the Big Ten. It's why Oklahoma and Texas went to the SEC. Hell, I was the one that was breaking that stuff. I know that. But I also know there is the laws of diminishing return. It's not like there's just this, there's not like there's 200 guys out there who can play football in this country. These other teams always have a puncher's chance. Georgia Tech had a puncher's chance. They won. Boston College had a puncher's chance. They won. West Virginia had a puncher's chance. It didn't go their way. That's why this whole idea that an SEC and a Big Ten team cannot lose to these other schools, it makes my head want to spin off my neck. Honestly, it does. The big brand schools have the big advantage. Of course they do. But to split away, to not have these type of games anymore, you see how many athletes, they were good football players at Boston College. There's good football players on Indiana. There's good football players on Mississippi State. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. This is a post-game.
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan 5. The floor is yours, but can you hold on 1 minute? I do got a super chat coming in. It seems like Childs looks ready compared to DJ. He looked okay, Anthony. He looked okay for his first start of his first season starting. He looked okay. But you gotta look at the competition. There was some moments. It was the defense that won that game. He looked okay. I think you're going to see Aiden Childs get a whole lot better as the season goes on. Thank you for the super chat, Anthony Carlson, Mr. Spartan. Tristan, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, Greg, we've seen some interesting games, and only 2 weeks so far this year. And I find it really – I was sitting here thinking about this because I just saw the Florida State game. To me, I can't remember the last time that Clemson and Florida State started the season with a combined 0-3 record. These are the two best football brands in the ACC, and they both appear to be down. Now, in the case of Clemson, they're not quite as down as it looks like Florida State is. But if Dabo's not going to – if he's not going to start using the transfer portal, I don't know what in the world they're going to do because it's only going to get worse, I think, for him if he doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, you've got two major brands in the SEC where the fan bases are, obviously at Florida, the fan base is ready to be done with Napier, I think.
Yes.
But people are starting to turn on Brian Kelly a little bit now.
Brian Kelly has Brian Kelly has issues with I'm gonna talk about more of this on in a Cloak and Dagger episodes from members. He's already got an issue in his third year in with his money perch. So he's got more issues than I think people realize. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I'm sure all of that's interesting information. What I'm hearing, or just from social media, what I see LSU fans saying, is that they're really upset with the fact that the line play seems to be pretty weak. Right, the defensive line doesn't seem to be doing a good job. And that's LSU football is at its best. It's like they're 1B to Alabama. Alabama's 1A and they're 1B.
Yeah. And
this team does not have the physicality that they've had in recent years. And people are saying, look, we really don't think Brian Kelly is the kind of coach who's going to bring that physicality. And he's a good X's and O's coach. When he gets his offenses going, they can score on a lot of different teams. But, man, I'll tell you what, man, the SEC is rough and tumble, and they got to be able to have some good line play.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that way, too, by the way, Greg. I'll add this. It's that way, too, at the top of the Big Ten. With those new teams coming in, with Michigan and Ohio State, if you can't play in the trenches, you're just not going to make it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really, really interested, I find it very interesting, I should say, that Florida State and Clemson are down, and it looks like LSU is trending down, and Florida is definitely down.
Yeah.
And those four coaches, I think Norvell's safe. I don't think that one bad season is going to do him in, but if this team is really down and he doesn't get it turned around soon, he might end up being in trouble. But I think Brian Kelly, the seat's starting to get hot for him. Dabo, same deal, and I think Napier's going to be gone. Oh, and let me tell you this.
Norvell just signed a huge, massive contract.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess that protects him.
And they went 13-0. Norvell is not going to be in trouble. Sure, there's going to be people upset, disappointed, but in regards to losing his job, he's not going to lose his job.
Well, that's good for him. The team just, it looks like, it's one thing if you don't have quality quarterback play. It looks like DJ is just not getting the job done.
Yeah.
That's one thing, but the team just doesn't appear to have any fire.
Yeah.
And the team last year had a lot of fire. You just knew they were never out of any game that they were in. They were so dynamic last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the deal is, but they just don't have that this year.
Jordan Travis was a magician. He made big plays when they needed it. Jared Verse was dominating, and they were stacked last year. So
yeah. And so when it comes time for Florida to get their new coach, I think a leading candidate is going to end up being Lane Kiffin. What do you think about that?
He's definitely going to be a name that's, he's going to be up at the top of the list. I'm going to just wait to comment on that as well. There's another name out there, but I can't really say anything at this point. So I would not put Lane Kiffin at number 1.
Okay.
And when we couple weeks, let's wait for Florida to pull that trigger, and then we'll do a hot list right away. And I will tell you this: there's going to be a name at the top of the hot board list that's not Lane Kiffin. Will he be on the list? Sure, but he's not going to be the top one.
All right. Well, that's very interesting, Greg. I look forward to hearing your information.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, listen, keep up the good work, and I enjoy the show, and it feels good that we're finally in football season, doesn't it?
Yep. It does. Beautiful.
All right. I'll catch you later.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Great call. Beautiful. A lot of calls are coming in. Post-game. Eagles upset the Seminoles.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, what a wild weekend, huh?
Yeah, what a crazy week 1. I don't expect week 2 to be that crazy, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And a caveat, I'm not calling the troll FSU. I'm here to just talk football, and what I saw. Some people can take whatever grain of salt they want. First of all, as you said, Norvell's not getting fired. He just signed an extension. It's through 2031. It's $10 million a year. They're not firing him. He's not in the hot seat. He can lose 10 more games.
Yeah.
And unless something weird happened, he's not going. So everybody can stop with that. It would be very easy for, and I've been in this kind of bad spot before. So I understand what those fans are going through after the last couple of decades. And I'm not, assuming anything for the rest of the year just because of one good game. But it'd be very easy and understandable just to point your fingers at DJ as the root cause of all of these problems. But that is a very narrow and dangerous thing to point out. Because look, first of all, the coaches made the evaluation to go get him. There were a lot of quarterbacks in the portal. Norvell's got a great reputation. Maybe they got outbid for some, maybe they didn't. But there were a lot of options out there, and they did zero in on him, and he's supposed to be a quarterback kind of guy. So he must have known the limitations and what he needed to surround DJ with to be successful. Right? And that receiving room to start is not performing that way. Yes, he was definitely errant, as you mentioned earlier, but if you just to take something I watched intimately, Restrepo saved Cam Ward a couple of times with passes that were 2 feet left or 2 feet right, whether intentional to keep him away from a defender or just off. So good receivers make somewhat errant passes into awesome catches. That didn't really happen for Florida State tonight, and even last week, really. DJ is, and I don't care if he starts to change it, but he's not the only problem that they have.
Yeah.
DJ doesn't explain how Georgia Tech was able to do what they did last week to their offensive line. And the last time I checked, that DJ wasn't playing defensive line or linebacker as Boston College ran up and down the field with them on a team that, yes, anybody can win on paper any given week, but like every talent ranking you would look at across football from 24/7 to Athlon, there's like a 50-spot gap in talent on paper between Florida State and Boston College. So, if you want to do hey, let's try the new kid, because the season, if you look at the ESPN predictions for what happens in the analysis for the playoff, like that loss went from, bringing them from like an 11% theoretical chance to make the CFP to 1. So maybe you do change what you're doing, and you still never know. It's still a long season. Weird things can happen. One of the games is going to be against Miami. Rivalry games do weird things. You never know. But if they just don't look at all these other things that really caused this game to, let Boston College kind of run away with it, that's not really just solving the problem. It makes it easy to feel better. It's like, let's just make a quarterback change. It's the oldest, cure in the book. But there are a lot of things that, watching the game and just trying to understand what was happening on with the team from afar and being completely stunned. And between you and your Minnesota Gophers and me believing that Florida State wasn't going to lay an egg twice, messing up my picks all over the place, those are the things that I saw. So I don't know, I know you focused in on DJU, but what else, what was your take? What is everybody else's take about this?
Well, I think that they just don't have the wide receiver room this year. They don't. You talked about Restrepo. He's been good the last couple of years. He's been an incredible possession wide receiver. He's been one of those bright stars out of Miami. A game against Florida, he looked like he looked like he went to a different level.
Right, for sure.
Like the game was a little, he's always had good hands, whatever, gets open, separation. He's always being looked at by the quarterback because they know he's going to be at the right spot, good hands. But it looked like the game was kind of slow to him. Like he kind of, when he got the ball, he kind of knew exactly where the defender was. He just looked, I think we might be looking at a season. Now, you got Cam Ward who can get him the ball. Restrepo might be looking at one of these historic seasons. What do you think?
Well, if he just does his pace that he did right now, he will officially, in 6 more games, become the all-time wide receiving leader for Miami in an era of 3 or 4 wide receivers that have graduated from Miami and gone to the Hall of Fame in the last 30 years. So he will do that. But in a way that brings out a point. He's homegrown, right? He wasn't a 5-star and anything. He worked his butt off. So that's one of the things that Florida State, they've done very well in recruiting under Norvell, but they haven't been super elite Ohio State level. They've had a lot of reliance on the portal, and probably not as much as Colorado, but last year it worked out really well. The portal give us and the portal take us away. I think for Florida State, smart use of the portal, not being diluted like Dabo not doing anything, but really needing to hit a little bit more on the recruiting trail so that maybe that those leaders would already be there that JD was talking about are too young. And that also, yes, you want a player-led team, but it also is on the coaches to get the right players across all of your classes to foster that opportunity so that does happen. I understand what he was alluding to, but that is also on the coaches on some level to fill the room with the people that provide that, and not just hey, we have a bunch of great freshmen that we expect will become leaders one day. That's hard to have those guys take that role, in their first year or even their second year. But I was totally surprised that this happened twice in a row to them. So definitely interesting.
All righty, man. Appreciate the
have
call,
a great
Rock
night,
Grant.
man. Be good.
Beautiful. B. Bean, Greg, Brent Key to Florida. That was being mentioned on X today.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, thanks for calling. Can you hold on 1 second, sir?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. B. Bean, Greg, Brent Key to Florida. That was mentioned on X today, and I made a comment. If Georgia Tech goes on and have a good season, and I think they're going to, I know Brent Key is going to be mentioned, but I'm not buying it. And so I'm going to be going against the grain on this one. I think I have heard, of course, this is early. Okay, this is week 1, Monday, September 2nd. People are already, I have heard Brent Key may be one of these guys who's going to who's going to stay at Georgia Tech for as long as he possibly can. It sounds like he is a big Georgia Tech guy. Like, big. And his wife is big Georgia Tech person. I don't quite know what the backstory is, but like they are GT, their family. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know if I was even told, but I was told that Brent Key is going to be one of these guys who loves Georgia Tech. I don't know if he grew up close to it. I don't know the story, but like he's a Georgia Tech and he's probably going to stay there. Like this is the job that he wanted. So I don't know about Brent Key. I would be very, very. It's like Lance Leipold. Everybody had him, on the top of the hot board list for all these hot boards, and I never really. I mean, we know that he had a son who is a senior quarterback this year in the high school in the Kansas high school football. And we were told that they were not going to move. Like, if Lance Leipold is going to leave Kansas, if he's actually going to leave Lawrence, it wasn't going to be this year, last year, the year before. We'll check back into that next year. But anyways, go ahead, BJ. The floor is yours. I'm going to start coughing here. Go ahead.
As always, Greg, thanks for allowing me to speak on your platform. But before I speak on what I want to talk about, as it pertains to the Florida situation, a lot of folks speak and they just are ill-informed. Florida just lost their president. He was fired or he resigned, and he ran the school's budget into the ground. They don't have a president. They're changing AD. I don't see a firing happen with no president and no AD. So before anything happens to Napier, they're going to have to get a president for one. And lastly, with Florida, the next Florida coach is going to be proven. Brent Key isn't proven, right? So they just hired a coach in Napier that wasn't proven really at the Power 5 level. And, it looks like he's just not ready to be a Power 5 head coach with head coach responsibilities. So if anything happens in Florida, it'll be after they get their new president, and it'll be a coach with success in the Power 5 level or NFL. That's just my opinion on that.
They're not gonna open up the same door, right? They're not gonna door 1, door 2, door 3, and last time Billy Napier was standing behind door 2. They're gonna go to door 1 or door 3. They're gonna go to someone who is proven. You're gonna go 180 degrees from what you just did. So I agree with you, sir.
Sure. And as far as the game today, very disappointing performance by Florida State. Mike Norvell kind of has to take responsibility. But as I'm watching the game isn't. Florida State did not play bad. I just think they are just woefully undisciplined, which is unlike a Mike Norvell team. And I just think they don't have an identity. Once they kind of figure out who they are, I think it'll be better for them. And it's not DJ's fault. I hear a lot of people throwing DJ under the bus, but I counted 5 or 6 drops tonight. And so Tom Brady could be the quarterback. If he's having 5 and 6 drops, he's not going to be very successful. DJ's not the most accurate passer. Florida State knew that when they got him, but they didn't expect the tight end to drop 3 passes, 2 of them wide open, right? So, but I will say this, and I think I mentioned to you this before. The game feels like an NFL game to me now, right? And what this game kind of highlighted to me, NFL coaches are freaking smart and good. So they are not as diverse, But once they found out something that worked, Bill O'Brien and the Boston College team drove it into the ground. And I don't see that with a lot of college coaches. They have these huge playbooks, and they just diversify their play calling. But Bill O'Brien and Boston College has an identity. They play a certain way, just like Brent Key and Tech. They have an identity. They play a certain way. And I think that it gives teams like that a leg up versus teams like Florida State who are shuffling in players in and out, and it just feels like they just don't have an identity. I don't know what you thought about the game, but my overall kind of thought process as I'm reflecting, Florida State needs to find an identity. Their linebacker play is just horrific. Eye discipline, physicality is just not where it needs to be. And their defensive communication, they look confused the entire game on play calls, which is odd for defense entering the fourth year under defensive coordinator to have that many blown assignments. Those are like the three major things, and those things I think can be cleared up. But how did you view the game, Greg?
Well, I started the show, this post-game show. I do think Mike Norvell made the decision for Florida State to go for it on 4th and 5. The first time they had the ball in the second half, when the ball was at their 45-yard line, I thought that was absolutely a panic move, and that set the tone for the whole second half. And they didn't make it. They were asking DJ Ungale to make a play, a 4th and 5 play, down 14-6. He had been inaccurate, and the passes that he'd been throwing decently had been dropped, and they weren't going to run for it. So Boston College was going to tee off on it, and of course they didn't make it. And Boston College went down and scored a touchdown. I thought that was a brutal coaching decision. And I think that set that team back for the second half. But the wide receiver room, I'm not a big fan of Florida State's wide receiver as a whole. And I talked about that during the offseason. The running backs, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. But to be fair, I didn't know what they were doing with their running backs when they went 13-0. So, they've had success. I don't think Mike Norvell ever wants to have an RB1, like the guy, the cowbell. He doesn't use Toafili enough. I think they love Cam Davis, their freshman, so I think he's going to get the rock for the rest of the season. But they really don't know what they're doing. The running game is abysmal, but I don't think they even... at the beginning of the year, BJ, everybody said Florida State's going to be a running team this year, right? Yeah. And in the back of my head, that whole time, I'm like, I don't know if Mike Norvell has that personality to have Florida State be a dominant running team. I think he needs another Jordan Travis. That's what I think. Go ahead, finish the call, sir.
I'll say this about Norvell. Norvell, his bread and butter was the counter run game. And I think that's what they're loading up to stop the counter. But here's two miscalculations on that. For one, his offensive linemen this year are huge. They're not as mobile. And they have these slow developing run plays that can't get off the ground. And I think that once you stop that, he's struggling to figure out something else. And you're right, he does the running back by committee. They have really good talented running backs, but the offensive linemen, I think, are too big to run the counter game. Because time and time again, they're just slow. The linebackers are beating them to the hole. And on the Boston College and Georgia Tech's linebackers was beating the guards and the pulling tackles or the pulling guards to the hole. But on the other side, I just see Florida State linebackers being the recipient of aggressive offensive line play. Like they're catching the blockers instead of attacking the blockers. And they have, just like I said, I think I told you this before, the linebackers are just inexperienced, young.
Yeah.
Their eyes are they're just slow at recognizing things. There's so many times where Boston College just played with the running back formations and position just to put them on a real route. And the linebackers caught it, but like a second late. And so that's just lack of seeing it enough and lack of recognition. And you can't fix that. That's experience. There should have been linebackers.
They did three wheel routes, Boston College, to Trayshawn Ward.
So thank you for allowing me to speak on your platform. Take it easy.
Appreciate it, man. Great calls tonight. Keep them coming. Great calls. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Smash the like button if you like our content. 3 wheel routes. Trayshawn Ward out of the backfield. And the Florida State linebackers were not even paying attention.
Call from
Anthony Manzano.
Anthony, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Hi, Greg.
How you doing, sir?
How are you?
I'm doing well. Good. How
Greg,
you doing?
This is Anthony. How are you? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Greg, I have a question. You know how I can't remember which big-time announcer for college football called out the incompetence and the lack of funding for the Miami football program? Do you think that's what needs to happen to Florida, where a big, TV personality for college football calls all the bad hirings for the athletic department and the coaching and stuff like that?
It sounds like, according to a tweet, and let's see if I can find it here. It sounds like
it Nessler that called out Miami? Was it Brad Nessler that called out Miami?
Hold on, sir. Hold on. Let me answer the comment. It sounds like right here, I'm going to show it up on the screen. Hal Lewis, a prominent Florida Gator, says, not the way I intended to spend my Sunday. That's what he talked about yesterday. So I think the money perch of Florida is already talking among themselves when it comes to that situation. But also another comment before you continue. Florida Gators have plenty of funding for the football program. The money is not the issue. It's just they made the wrong hire. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, no. But what I was asking, I know Florida doesn't have the issue with the funding, but what I'm saying, the incompetence of the athletic department constantly making the wrong hire and stuff too. Was it Musburger or Nessler that called out Miami on live television a few years ago that caused them, the president and the athletic department, to change, where they hired the guy from Clemson and they brought in Mario and stuff like that? Was it Nessler that called out Miami?
I don't know who it was, but I think Florida's athletic director Strickland is going to be gone. I think they're gonna get a new. They got to start over.
Yeah, no, and Strickland is a good businessman, but I don't think he knows how to deal with athletics, the athletic side. This is what I don't get with some of these presidents, why they hire a businessman who doesn't know anything about the athletic side of the sport and stuff like that. Is there a reason for that? Is it because they want to get more funding from boosters? That's why they get the businessman instead of a person who understands.
Well, that's what Ohio State just did with their hire. They hired a business guy. They hired a fundraiser. I don't think the guy did all that good where he was before when it came to coaching hires. Having said that, the athletic director job is such a bigger job now than it was 10 years ago. Now you got this. Now you're going to have the salary cap. Players are getting paid directly. You got to be more of a fundraiser than ever before. You're going to be hiring a general manager, and it's a bigger job than it's ever been. And most of these guys may have a skill set that fits one particular part of the athletic director job, but maybe they're weak on other parts. So it's a tough job, man, with a whole lot of pressure.
Yeah. No, and the reason why I said that, the perfect example is I don't really consider the guy who we brought from Clemson for Miami as our athletic director. I forgot his name.
Radakovich?
Right now.
Radakovich.
He's not a businessman. He knows how to he knows how to put the right people in for each program to be successful. I think honestly, I think that's what needs to happen with Florida. I think they need to bring in a guy from like a Michigan or somewhere that knows how to run a football program and hire the right people instead of hiring. I think that's what hurt Miami the past few years. We hired the wrong people in the athletic department who were fundraisers instead of caring about the actual athletics part of it and stuff like that.
All right.
That's what hurt Miami. Yeah, I think that's what it's hurting Florida. They've been hiring business people instead of a person who knows how to run a day-to-day athletics department. For that, the athletics should be the focus. The fundraising, I understand, is important, but I think athletics and hiring the right people should be more of the focus of an athletic director, and the president of the university should be the one fundraising, not the athletic director.
All right.
And stuff like that.
Good point, sir. I appreciate the call.
Have a good day.
You got it. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the more interesting ALC. Fans were chanting, "We want Brock." Emilia, Mrs. Seminole, I was yelling at the TV for Brock. Now, why wasn't Brock put in? Maybe he's nicked up and we don't know it. Or maybe he had a poor week of practice, or who knows. But yeah, if that continues on, you got to think Brock's going to get some playing time. I mean,
Call from
Steve.
Steve, the floor is yours. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. Truthfully, to me, the game looked a little too quick for DJ both weeks. He had some drops, obviously, but he also had some people that he could have got the ball to that he didn't.
Yeah.
And in situations like that, it costs you down, obviously. You bring up the Norvell thing about the second half. I sat there and I went, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, I was shocked.
They're gone for this.
Yeah.
This game's is still a football game.
They could have put Boston College deep in their zone.
Yep.
They were down 14-0, 14-6. The tide was turning a little bit, and you put the game in the DJ Ungo Ungale's hands while he's struggling. Put the okay. I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No.
It infuriated me.
I agree, but and I'm going to make this comparison, and it may not be a fair comparison, but watch the feet, watch the footwork, watch the everything of the two quarterbacks that Florida State has played, and then go on film and look at the feet of DJ.
Yeah.
There's no comparison. There's absolutely no comparison. There were a couple times I'm thinking, get out of there and get 8 yards, and he didn't have the mobility and the quickness or the vision to do that. And, that to me was a little disappointing. Bill O'Brien, the guy's a coach. What he did at Penn State when that program was in shambles, basically. And then, coming to Boston College and wanting to be at Boston College and seeing that product he put on the field, they were just, for 80% of the game, that offensive line was manhandling the front seven of Florida State. There was no comparison, who had the upper hand there. There just wasn't. They were gashing them any way they wanted to. And, you got to give credit to a guy like O'Brien, Another thing I want to bring up, Greg, is there's things called hangovers, and there's things called outside noise.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. How many of these guys played against Georgia and took that beating?
Yeah.
Okay, so that carries over, and with social media, these guys hear and see everything, and I think, and I don't know that would cause them to win or lose a game, but I think it's there. I think it's there. And that's not healthy for a program. It's just not. So, I haven't heard anybody bring that up. I've seen it happen in other instances, and it may be there. It really may be there. And on to one other thing, Greg.
Yep.
I'm going to get you out of the freezer. Listen up.
It's going to, you know what? My record, thanks for bringing that up, Steve, before you get into it, my record, I believe, I might be wrong. I believe, let's see, 1-1. What is 0-2 plus? I am 1-9. My record is 1-9 against the spread. 1-9. It's almost mathematically impossible. It isn't Greg the Cooler. It's Greg the Ice Age. It's going to take me half the season just to get to 500 if I get my head on straight. Steve, I apologize for the explosion.
I don't want to get you so riled.
Give me your encouragement.
I didn't want to get you all riled up this late in the evening, but anyhow, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati Saturday at noon.
Yes.
Take the over.
Yeah.
Take the over.
Yeah.
Greg, I watched Cincinnati's defense. Okay, I watched their defense.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop you, me, and 9 other people in the chat Saturday.
I'm going to need a look at Eli Holstein's tape.
Yeah.
He was a surprise starter for Pittsburgh, but
yeah,
I think they made the right. I don't like Nate Young. You and I talked about it. We don't like the other guys, so.
No.
Okay, I'll probably take the over. I mean, heck.
Take the over and get off of this, whatever you're on, streak.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it's a lock. It's a lock. Hell, I think the over's 59. They both might score 50. I'm telling you, Cincinnati's defense, they say you improve the most from game 1 to game 2. My God, I don't know. That would be a stretch for them to improve. I mean, they can't get any worse, but to improve so drastically in a week from what I saw was, it was nasty, Greg. It was nasty.
Yeah.
I've changed my open for 6-6 because with that defense, oh boy, I don't know. Anyhow, Bet the over.
You got it. Appreciate it, my man. Bearcat
All right,
Steve,
talk to you.
Cincinnati,
Talk to you.
Pittsburgh next week.
Yep. Take care.
Yep, you bet. You too, sir. I do apologize for my cough, and I still got the cough. The doctor said I might have it for 6 weeks, but I'm feeling better. I'm pretty good, but it's the cough, man. It's still battling. ALC, thank you so much. Early Peak, Cloak and Dagger for 6 months. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, ALC, for your incredible generosity. You are officially knighted Cloak and Dagger once again. Again, we are waiting for the okay to drop our next episode. We do have a little bit of nugget, but we are... So I'm waiting on that. And I thought maybe this morning. I did drop an episode. If some of you missed it, I dropped an episode on the PAC-2 of the Mountain West Conference being far apart when it comes to the scheduling agreement for 2025. It's not going to happen. That is a story that I think is going to hit the peak, the zenith, early in 2025. That story is not going to be ending in 2024. Neither is the UConn and Big 12 and Fox story. I think that's going to go into 2025. Anyways, so there will be an early peak Cloak and Dagger episode coming up, but I can't drop it until I can. I'll put it that way. Thank you, ALC and ALC. You know, the door, the pathway to the ACC championship game again for your Louisville Cardinals. It's there. It's there. It's right there. There was another thing I want. Well, it could be. It could be. I tested negative, but I tested. But it could be. Whatever I had was brutal. It was brutal. But I feel good. I mean, that's the only problem I have. But the cough is still just... It feels like it's not going to go away anytime soon. But we'll see. That wasn't an upset. What are you talking about? Well, it was... Are you talking about the Steve Moser? You're talking about the football game. Boston College, Florida State. There was a 17-point spread. So it was an upset. Greg the Igloo. Greg the Iceberg. Peek around the freezer. CFB Plus. Greg, I make my picks based on... Hey, you know what? CFB Plus, you said, Greg, I make my picks based off what you do. I choose the opposite. Be careful of that. Be careful of that, because last year we did the opposite. We did George Costanza from the Jerry Seinfeld show, where he did everything the opposite and suddenly he was able to date a girl and he got a job, and we did that. Every game, and I picked 9 games that week. Every game I picked the opposite of what I wanted to do. So when I did that, when I picked the opposite, I went 1-8. If I would have just stuck to what I wanted to do, I would have had the best week of the season. Just another example that the studio sits in the middle of Loserville City and I am your mayor. Just another example. Just another example. Grant Creech, really weird that the Big 12 doesn't want to bring in the Pac-2 to utilize that war chest they have. The Pac-2 isn't going to go west again. I'm sorry. The Big 12's not. The Big 12 is interested east. They got what they wanted in your Arizona State, the Utah, and the Cal. They're not interested. And their media partner, if you notice, right? Arizona played late. Arizona State played late, of course. Late in terms of, not for you, but, for us in the Central and people out east. The Big 12's got late games on Saturday night, and that's what they love. And that's what Arizona, for at least half the season, will provide in Arizona State. I've never have spent any time discussing everybody that I've talked to. There's never been really, truly any Oregon State, Washington State to the Big 12 steam. I know it's been reported other places, but we've never said that because it's not there. It just isn't there. Now you might question, you might be saying, I think your Mark's making a mistake. That's fair. But it's not what they're looking at. Not what they're looking at. Trust your feelings, Flugs. Yeah, well, my feelings have gotten me nowhere. Nowhere. Fajitas. I made fajitas tonight for the wife and I. The chat is roasting Greg. That's what we do here. Peek around the corner. The phone line is open. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Phone line is open. Post-game show. Tomorrow we're going to talk about week 2. We're going to talk about how horrible our picks were. The PATC community just did a little bit better than I did. But we're gonna spend like 45 seconds on last week's pick. Then we're gonna go on to week 2. We're gonna talk about week 2 games. There's also other stuff going on. There's gonna be a Thursday meeting. NCAA. There's gonna be well, I did not know this. I did not see this. And since she posted it in public, I'm going to go ahead and post it here. Jen Knoll, so let's do this. I won't make the Memphis game. I've been diagnosed stage 3 ovarian cancer. We'll have surgery removed in 5 days. I thought I would drop the bomb tonight to maybe miss the hype, but to also explain my absence. All love to you all. A friend of the program, a friend to anybody who loves college football, a friend to anybody who loves the Florida State Seminoles, the PATC community, myself, my wife, the little general. We give our prayers to Jen Knoll, all of our prayers. We'll be thinking about you. I hope you know that, Jen. You are sensational. I love your passion for the Seminoles. I love you've been in our chat room many, many times. I appreciate all that you do. And yeah, our prayers are with you. You got this. Go get it done. Recover. The Seminoles are not going to give up. Jen Knowles not going to give up. So all of my prayers to you, Jen. God bless. I did not know that. I just saw that. A friend of the program just sent us that message. Yeah, prayers. Prayers for Jen. John Dry. See, John, thoughts and prayers to Jen. Amelia. Oh my goodness, healing thoughts and vibes for Jen. John Till, Chip to Florida maybe. I don't think so. But John, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint. I think you're fishing in the right ocean. Well, you're fishing in the right lake. You're fishing in the right location. And I'm not talking Columbus. I'm just, I can't get in. Not Chip Kelly, but you are on. You are gonna. You're. I think you're opening up the correct door. That's and no, not Ryan Day. Nothing Ohio State based, but the type of candidate Chip Kelly is. Something about him. It matches what we have been told that might be Florida's target. One of the top targets. A certain candidate that would have a certain, the same hue as Chip Kelly. Anyways, thank you for your super chat, John Till. You're close, John. You are close. I don't think Urban Meyer is going to ever coach again. When I said that 2 years ago, I was told I was crazy. When I said that last year, I was told I was crazy. I don't think he can do it. I think he knows he can't do it. I think his family knows he can't do it. I think Fox knows he can't do it. I don't think he's healthy enough. Glenn Schumann, Georgia, offensive coordinator. Rock and Rant. Nitwit. MBM putting out some good candidates. I thought the celebrity roast ended with Dean Martin. Everyone is after Greg. I'm going to have to sing a Dean Martin song. One of these days, I'm going to have to sing a Dean Martin song. That will be my payback back to you guys for roasting me. There's a couple real good ones out there. I think you are correct. I think this is the coldest I've ever been, and that's saying something.
Call from
Replica.
Replica, the floor is yours. What are you thinking, good sir?
Yeah, what a way to end the weekend, right?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
First off, wishing good health for Jen. Yeah. Her situation, we hope she gets better and everything goes well for her.
Yeah.
And then I want to kind of just ramble about the weekend. Norvell's now on the hot seat. Let's kind of relax. He just signed a lucrative long-term deal. He's going to deal with criticism, of course, but they're not going to fire him, and he's just going to – they're going to have to find an identity, and he's really going to have to rebuild that program. It's just the reality. Like I said it after they lost to Georgia Tech. They're just not dynamic on offense, and they don't know what they want to be. They're kind of waiting to see who those players are because, let's be honest, most of the players who played in that Georgia game, that was their first real game action. So they don't really have the experience. They don't really know who's going to emerge. So that's going to take time for them. The other coach in Florida that's on the hot seat, he just looks defeated. Like, I get Miami's more talented. Cam Ward's a much better quarterback than Graham Mertz, but Mertz made some plays that just weren't really able to sustain drives.
Yeah.
And just over time, the defense just kind of capitulated. So he's done. It's just win at this point, and I understand he has a high buyout and they don't have a president right now, but the people funding that move is also going to pick the coach. So those things can be worked around as far as getting a new president and things like that. But, I mean, they have to make a move now. Like, they can't afford to keep him on another year. I mean, look where Texas A&M is after keeping Jimbo all those years. Even though they made the massive financial investment, just having a coach around because you don't want to fire him, like you feel like it's too expensive. I don't think that philosophy is going to work in this modern college football with everything becoming more expensive and just more money being in the sport in general. So, I personally think it'll be either Jed Fish or Lane Kiffin who ends up going to Florida. And I'll throw out a third wild card that just not on the radar, but I could see it, and I would say Sean McVay, just because he achieved everything that you could possibly achieve as a coach at such a young age. And he was talking about retiring, but I think he still wants to coach. I think whenever the Rams get to a point where they're not really able to compete, I think he'll leave, and we'll see what he does from there. But there's a couple other coaches I want to talk about as well. First off, Neil Brown. What a disaster that was on Saturday. That it's one thing to lose, but to not even give your team a chance to win. Like, I get trying to be aggressive. Once you get the first fourth down, you've shown that you can do that. You have to take the points and play from the lead because you could just tell they weren't settled, and they needed to kind of get some points on the board and kind of exhale, say, okay, like we're playing. But
get the zero off the scoreboard, you know?
Yeah, it's when you're playing against a defense like that, where you know they're going to be ready, they're very fast, you can't try to beat them horizontally. You have to try to push the ball down the field, and I don't think they called a design quarterback run into the fourth quarters. Like, you're not even giving Garrett Green a chance to succeed, and then to throw him under the bus after the game talking about not good enough, and I love the kid, but he's going to play better. It's like you're saying, take this bullet for me, but I love you. It's like, I don't get it. And Brian Kelly did the same thing. He's in real trouble. He's not really built to be a coach in the South, in the SEC. He's had trouble recruiting. That's where the portal comments where we're not going to pay for players. I mean, if you lose a recruit, you kind of just have to take that on the chin and move on and kind of deal with the collectives and things like that. You can't be –
I agree.
You can't do that and then lay an egg. And then he throws Nussmeier under the bus. Nussmeier played well. I think he played very well.
I thought he played at a very high level.
Yeah, they just weren't able to run the ball, and that's kind of been
at
issue
one
with
point
LSU
they did.
post-Burrow.
One part of the game they did, but it just there had to be a winner and they had to be a loser, and that's just the way it is.
Yep, that's why I called it the loser leaves town game, because it's like whoever loses the noise is gonna increase, and I think for him to the press conference is not a good look. It's just not.
Yeah. All right, man.
Yeah, and I think those are the coaches who are in trouble. And I would say keep your eye on Joey McGuire as well. Like that was
a bad performance.
That was bad.
Yeah.
And there's really not their schedule. They should be competing. So.
Got it.
We'll
all righty, sir.
All right, have a good one.
Appreciate the call, Replica. Call again, my man.
All right, take care.
Beautiful. I was asked a question. Stormy Cyclone. Greg, still no news on Iowa State injury report. Yeah, we're not going to get anything until 90 minutes or whatever before the Iowa game and or the next game. So next Saturday. So yeah, we're just not going to know. We're just not going to know. I was asked, what is my top three? Grant asked, Greg, can you give your top three Heisman candidates after week one? Well, I did have a Heisman preseason Heisman watch. So, whoops, I didn't want to do that. I did not want to do that. So, this was, number 5 was Ollie Gordon. Okay? I would not have him in my top 3, of course. But Oklahoma State had a very good game against the Jackrabbits. I think Ollie Gordon, I'm going to keep him, top 5, top 6, top 7. Not in my top 3. He does. I don't think he belongs there yet. Jackson Dart, I would move to number 3. He's going to throw for 1,000,000 yards. He's going to have incredible numbers. It all depends if Ole Miss, if they can get to the SEC championship game, then Jackson Dart's going to New York City. Or if Ole Miss finishes in 3rd, Ole Miss goes to the playoffs, Jackson Dart is going to go to New York City. If Ole Miss does the unthinkable, the Ole Miss Rebels, and they actually win the SEC, then Jackson Dart can be your Heisman winner. I've got him at number 3. I'm going to have to move out Dylan Gabriel. Can't have Dylan Gabriel number 3. He didn't play horrible, but he's not going to be ahead of Jackson Dart anymore. So Jackson Dart number 3, Quinn Ewers number 2, and Carson Beck number 1. So Dart, Ewers, and Beck. And, of course, all 3 are SEC quarterbacks. Now, again, right, we're looking at Cam Ward is going to move up in there. Drew Aller is going to move up in there. Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma is going to move up in there. Travis Hunter is going to get closer there. And we're going to move it. This is just week 1, so relax. Relax. But that I would have those 3 right now. Let me know what you think. McMillan is gonna. Yeah, he's. Yep. Cam Ward. No, I'm not thinking of Tim Tebow. Ashton Jenny. The great running back for Boise State had a big game, and they needed him to have a big game. I said Travis Hunter, he'd be up there. I think you're talking about Frazier, the Georgia running back, John Teal. I'm not thinking of Drinkwitz or Mark Stoops, but I got to tell you. If Vandegrift if he is what, everybody's talking about Cam Ward, Drew Allen, these so many great performances. But if Vandegrift is what he looked like to be in the first week, I'm telling you, Kentucky has players on both sides of the ball. Both sides. And on every level. They've got a great cornerback. They've got a great linebacker. They've got a great defensive tackle. On the offensive side, they got a great O-line, really good running back, and if Vandegrift is there, and they've got the receiver, Mark Stoops. I'm taking Kentucky over South Carolina next week. I think the line is going to be pretty big. I don't care. I'm giving the points. I'm giving all the points. I'm giving all the points to the Gamecocks. I'm taking the Wildcats. We'll find out how Kentucky, if they do blow the doors, if they can get past Greg the Ice Age and blow the doors out the Gamecocks, I don't know. I think Kentucky's, they're going to beat one of these they're going to get a win over one of the top 6 or 7 SEC programs this year. They're going to upset somebody. They're going to finish with a good record. Mark Stoops, Kentucky. If Vandegrift can prove what he proved in week 1. Greg is throwing the hex on Kentucky, like I say. They got to get through the Ice Age. They got to get through, keep chopping. They got to get through the Ice Age next week and blow the doors off of South Carolina. By the way, we're talking about offensive lines. Nobody has a worse offensive line than the Gamecocks. And that big number 0, that defensive tackle, he's gonna crush that quarterback, that young quarterback that South Carolina has. That Mr. Sellers, he's going to get absolutely crushed. Anyways, we are going to close it up. I want to appreciate everybody joining us for our post game. We've been on the air for an hour and 45 minutes. Boston College, congratulations. Congratulations. Thomas Castellanos, the quarterback. Robichaud, Ward, running the ball. And, of course, don't forget the true freshman, Turbo Richard, number 27. You are going to be hearing more and more about Mr. Turbo Richard. Boston College goes against Duquesne next week. They're going to go 2-0. And then I think they go to Missouri. I'm not sure on that. I know they play Michigan State, but I don't think it's week 3. I think Boston College gets Jonathan Smith and the Spartans in Boston College like week 4 or week 5. But anyways, Boston College, congratulations. Big victory. Florida State 0-2, 0-2 in the conference. The Seminoles now, they just got to find themselves, develop the players for this year, and still can be, the season can be still a lot of fun for the Seminole fans. I want to thank you all for joining us. Keep your head on a swivel. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Smash the like button. We're going to have a live show tomorrow. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. So stay with us. Keep your head on a swivel. Until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.